Hold on, hold on.
Yeah, we're live. I can see on
Okay,
Facebook.
let's just say we're live.
Technology is working. Technology is
I'm
working.
gonna say, well, I've got the perfect. I just got the thing pop up on my phone to say we're live. Okay,
Yeah, I've just seen it as well.
perfect, awesome.
So well, okay. So I'm kicking off, am I?
If that's okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's cool. That's cool. So evening. We don't normally do this midweek. So for those of you who follow Mindful Men's Club, you're used to us doing our debriefs on a Saturday straight after the Zoom. But unfortunately, we couldn't do the debrief straight after Zoom because a couple of the members from Mindful Men's Club had unfortunately two deaths in the family for two different members. So obviously we had to respect their wishes and give them space, and we also need our own space as well. So, and we had a few people messaging us, private messaging us, and also on the group saying, "Are you guys going to do the debrief?" So here it is. Here's the debrief. So the debrief is basically from a really tough topic, I guess, for a lot of people to even talk about, which is depression. And it's even harder. I guess it's difficult for different people and there's different dimensions, right? Because it's unimaginable from the person who's going through depression, and you might know somebody who's actually going through a form of depression, and it's tough. And there's different spectrums of depression, and there's no right or wrong, right? And some people are on tablets for depression, and it's quite hard to get off it. And some people aren't on tablets, and there's also pros and cons of that as well. So it's highs and lows, etc. So if you know anyone who's going through bouts of depression or living with depression, which people don't talk about, right? It's the secondary and tertiary people who have to live with depression. And it could be your partners, girlfriends, boyfriends, sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, etc. It's really, really tough. And it was a tough subject. And the subject, like most of our subjects, it wasn't our topic. I'm not going to obviously mention the person's name, but somebody's private messaged me on my Facebook, and with the single intention of what he shared with me might help somebody going through something similar. And that's what sparked the conversation with Mindful Men's Club of us doing a topic on depression. So this is where it's all started from. So I'm just giving you the whole kind of lowdown. And I'll probably start off. Obviously, I've got to filter some of the bits, but I'll probably start off by just maybe reading some of it. I mean, I may read all of it. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. But I'll read some of it and put it into context, because it takes real courage to do this, and it's even tougher when you're from a South Asian community, because depression is a tough subject, and mental health alone is something that we're trying to smash the taboo, right? Not just us, but everyone around us, right? Because it's something we need to discuss. It's none different if you say you're going to the gym to train your muscles. Well, you're training your mind muscles, right? That's what mental health is. It always carries a negative connotation, but it doesn't have to. And obviously every person who's behind Mindful Men's Club, myself, Saga, Havan, and Viraj, have all had our own fair share of mental health. I myself have suffered from depression. I may happily go into it now, and I guess Saga's got his own story to share as well. I'll just read out some of this, right, without obviously mentioning the person's name, of course. And excuse me if I'm mispronouncing the medicine, because some of them I've not heard of and some of them I have. Okay, so it starts off with sertraline, citalopram, mitazapine, fluoxetine. I'm probably butchering these names, so apologies for anyone who's on these tablets. And it goes on saying, so if you're unlucky enough to know what these tablets are, then I don't have to describe to you what this story is regarding. But if you don't know, then I'll tell you or try to explain. This medication allows people to deal with a normal day-to-day life, but most days it leaves them tired, spaced out, and emotionless. It's wired and it's crazy. Why would anyone want to feel like that? See, I don't know people suffer from depression or anxiety. They say it's in the brain. It doesn't sit right. Something seems different. They notice little differences
Maybe
that
that's
normal
crazy.
people,
Why would anyone want to feel like that? See, I don't know people.
normal people wouldn't notice. Maybe something like that comment you didn't tag them in, but you tagged other people. They see that and they feel to themselves, why didn't you tag them in it? What's up with me? You see them reading messages you sent them that you did, but you didn't reply. Why didn't they reply? And you feel like you've done something wrong to upset them. The same goes if you are left out of a meeting altogether, saying sorry all the time. And for all these questions, we will spend hours trying to answer, let it all build up in their mind until it turns them to tears. It's mad, it's effed up. That's the that they see things that way. It's not only mental changes, but physical changes. Don't eat a lot, mainly rubbish, because they need it now and need the energy from lack of sleep, up all night answering questions to stuff that's happened, or just sleep too much. I can still smile, and when they ask, I have every excuse for them. But the tablets can help me. Why? Because I know when I start to feel this way or think this way, I need them. I know I know that when my behavior starts to change, I need guidance and help. And I understand that I don't need to be ashamed. I don't need to be understood. I just need to be accepted. And that everyone is fighting a battle. And sometimes you need to be comforted, but not everyone will accept it. So I may just be another person who's talking about mental health, but for someone living with this illness, it's hard. But trying to understand it, it's even harder. And obviously, I'm not going to mention the person's name. So it's quite deep, right? It's quite personal. Um, it takes immense courage for someone to even put pen to paper, in this case in a digital format, and just reach out to someone. And I don't know this person that well, at all. And obviously, it's done it's done with the premise of he's trying to help others who are going through something similar to him. And it's thanks to this individual that we created the topic, unpacking depression, on the Saturday on the weekend. So I guess, yeah, I mean, uh, where do you go from that, Sagar? I'll let you digest that. And
I think just you going through that, if I had read something like that and someone had sent that to me, where do you go from that, right? And I think some of the things, and I was picking out some of the words, and just some of the words that has come out of that whole sentence, or that message, takes me back. And I think I mentioned this to you earlier, that, like you mentioned earlier to me as well, the last phrase, which is, it's not about that we don't want people to understand us, it's just more to accept that we're going through this stage at this moment,
mhm,
and just going on that, I mean, you're right in terms of the courage side of things, because no one shares it to that level, to that detail. And I also think when you say that, sometimes I don't know, this is a personal thing, but I can't say to someone that you don't understand me if I don't share anything as well. I think there's a, you know, we expect people to understand us, but if they don't understand what we're going through, and you don't share your feelings and your thoughts, then on the flip side of that, how can they understand you? And I think we mentioned this last time, didn't we, Manoj? A couple of times actually, is sometimes people only see things from the outside, but they will say what they need to say out of love, and automatically we think, hold on, why are they not comforting and so on? Because that's not what we want to hear. We don't want someone to fix us, but they are only saying it out of love, right? And some of the other, I've
mm,
just made a couple of notes here actually. Some of the things that came out was the sleeping, yeah, the sleeping side of it. How weird is it that, yeah, when I was going through that whole depression side of it myself, all I wanted to do was sleep and nothing else. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to, I was not in a process of even in a place to share anything. But at the same time, I was very quickly to react and say to my family and friends, why don't you reach out to me? Don't you know that I'm depressed? But how can they know? Do you see what I mean? It's now I'm realizing it. Like until if I didn't share anything, then how can they know what I'm going through? And they wouldn't, because as I said, the way I dealt with my depression was sleeping. I just didn't want to do anything. Even eating, I would take food from the kitchen, come upstairs in my room and eat in my room because I didn't want anyone to say,
Mm.
hello, what's wrong? How are you today? I didn't want to know any of that. And because my depression was due to the breakup of my marriage, yeah, it's very deep for me to say on Facebook, but because it was a breakup of my marriage, I was constantly in that same surrounding. I didn't have time to actually understand what had happened because as much as my marriage was breaking down, being in the events industry, I still had to make all my other couples happy. And how do you do that?
Mhm.
There's the balance, right? So I'll be everyone's like, oh, he's got over it because they'll see me on a wedding day and they're like, this guy's happy. He must have a really good married life, and he's got it
I
all.
think
You
I,
know,
th- I think what you said is an interesting point because the analogy you used, it's like anybody who's gone through depression or is going through depression right now does at some stage wear that mask because you get tired of people asking you. See, there's different sides of it, right? And I'm talking from personal experience as well. You get tired of people saying, "How you doing? How you doing?" And then certain people you don't want to share your life story with, right? But then you get other people where you're craving for attention and you just want them to accept you for what you're going through right now without judging you, etc., or without trying to psychoanalyze you or prescribe to you as if they're a doctor or if they're a coach or whatever, right? Because when you're in that, when you're going through what you're going through, it's so raw. You don't, 9 times out of 10, you don't need advice. You just need someone to listen to you and be there for, right? And then just be present in that moment. So it's really tough. It's really tough. It's a lonely journey, and I think but it equally can be lonely for the people around the person who's going through it as well, because
yeah,
people act differently, right? Through depression, like you said, you went inclusive, and you just wanted to go sleep, 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 and therefore people that could be disguised as, oh, he's just tired, and they would never know, right, necessarily that you're depressed. So it has disguises, it's invisible, but it also is very visible as well, and it depends on who it is and how you act it out, and not act it out in a sense in the scene, but how it comes across, if that makes sense, how that depression, how the signs of it come across and the ramifications of it. And it's like I don't know because I wasn't on any of those tablets, but I do know people who are close to me that have been on tablets, and it's tough to get off the tablets because it's like you come down crashing on a real low, and you've got to go lower than the low you've been on to
mm,
then come back up again. And if
mm.
you don't surround yourself with the right support system and the right people, it can be even more. It could be, well, a nightmare is probably an understatement from anybody who's going through depression.
Yeah, just something that came up of just what you just said actually is I think some people, and don't quote me on this because I might be wrong, but some people I come across, and I shouldn't judge. It's not about judging, but sometimes when you're having a conversation with them and their reply back to you, and the way they talk, do you think that some people are actually going through depression, but they actually don't know themselves that they're going through depression?
So
But
that,
but I'm not saying you
yeah,
don't. I'm not
no,
saying, again, I'm trying not to judge here. I'm trying to
no, no, no.
phrase this in a right way. But
It's a brilliant question because actually one of the guys in the private Zoom session on Saturday asks that very question, which is, what is the definition of depression? And sometimes when in South Asian communities, when you say, like, let's say bunch of guys, right? Let's say me, you, a couple of other guys, we're hanging around wherever we're hanging around, right? The amount of courage it would take, even amongst friends, to say I'm going through something, and then for you to use the word depression in the sentence is extremely rare for guys, extremely rare. So the connotation that that word has is a negative connotation. So therefore you're suppressing even using the word depression. So one of the guys said, well, what about if I'm feeling down? In depression, you feel down. You can have lows, you can have highs, right? In life, you have lows, you have highs. So I think it's less about the label we put on the word, and it's more about the feeling and what you're going through. And if you unpack it, like we're unpacking depression, and unpack and strip away the word depression and strip away the layers, well, what is it about? It's about the feeling, emotion, and experience that you're going through. So if you talk to someone with your feeling, experience, and emotion that you're going through, and you just happen to be having a bad day or a low, and you stay in that low for a while, well, guess what? That's depression. See, language is just a powerful thing, right? And it's just it's like mental health. People don't like to, really, I've got mental health. Do I need to see a psychiatrist? Like, the usual stuff you get, right? No, I mean, so many celebrities have actively talked about it right now, and especially with South Asian communities, it's just people, for whatever reason, and sometimes there's really, really good reasons, because social conditioning, society pressures, family, fear of being judged, you name it, there's no judgment here. It's tough, right? You can never know what someone's going through unless you're living in their shoes. And that's just a fact, right? So unless you're experiencing it firsthand, you absolutely have no idea. And like what I read out, um, all credit, that person is still going through what he's going through, and the guts and courage that he had to reach out. It could have been anybody, right? It just happened to be me, and said, look, hope this helps someone else going through something similar in some small way. That's blessed, right? Like, he's still going through whatever he's going through, pain, but he wants to serve and help in some way. And yeah, it's lonely. It's not easy, right? And the signs are invisible and visible. So you could know someone going through a low, but the language that you internalize in your own mind, you won't say that that person's going through depression. You'll just say, oh, he's having a bad day, she's having a bad day. But if you dig deeper, if it's obviously warranted, and if you have that relationship, and well, sometimes you need to knock on the door a few times, right, for the door to open. But sometimes it's the way you say it. Like, if you go in there with all prescriptions and judgments and all that, people are going to close off. But if you go in there just listening, then it's different, right, Soda?
It is. I just thought of something else though, right? And this is what used to come up when I was going through that entire stage. That when I finally stripped things back, and whatever I did, and I tried so many things. I tried counseling, um, and it wasn't about the money or anything, but actually it didn't help. Maybe I didn't let it help me, whatever it is. Maybe I still was blocked off and not just my natural self. But everything that I was saying, I already knew. So I thought, let me try and see if I can strip it back and see what I can do to solve each bit by bit. Because I didn't want, sometimes it's the ego that kicks in as well, because you don't want others to fix you, because you can fix yourself, right? And so you try not to express it so much. However, the sharing side of it is so wonderful, because if I didn't share as much as I do, like, I think every single couple of mine, every wedding I'm doing from now to whenever, every couple of mine know that I've gone through a divorce, and every couple of mine know that I've gone through depression. Now, I don't need to talk about that in a wedding meeting, because this is a wedding meeting. I shouldn't be putting a downer on it by going through my thing. But how weird is that when I do, some of them actually come back and say, "Do you know what, actually, Saga, like, can you talk us to through us about the love languages, or can you talk through us what you did, because we've got some kind of problem in our marriage?" And I'm like, "But oh, wow, you're not even married yet." But if I didn't share that, would they have just talked about that they're having issues in their relationship? No, they wouldn't.
Mm.
Now, like, we know everything about, well, both of us know most everything about each other in terms of what we've gone through. But how love, like, not lovely, but just because of the sharing element of it, how many people are actually now reaching out to myself, yourself personally, because we're not expecting that. It's just because we've been through a similar journey. Sometimes people feel comfortable reaching out to others that they don't know, like this guy has reached out to you, guy or girl, whoever's reached out to you. But the the,
Yeah.
the thing is, even though I came out of that depressive state, and then I was a very happy go bunny, and you know how lightly I take life. We just discussed it just before this call. But even then, even though I'm happy go lucky and bunny or whatever it is, the whiz, but people still say to me, "Are you okay? Because you're hiding something. Are you sure you're not still depressed?" So like, how do you, is someone that's very happy actually depressed? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like this that saying, right? The most happiest people are the most saddest, right? Like
Yeah,
the look at the iconic. I mean, there's loads of them, but look at the
Robin Williams and stuff like
Robin
that.
Williams. Yeah,
Yeah,
number one person that comes to mind, right? Uh, Comedic genius, right? Would you ever have known? I mean, obviously, it's everything's that you see on TV is edited after a few different scenes and what we see anyway, certainly. But you never would know, right? Just because of the charisma he has, and even on some of his, I watched some of his live shows, right? The early ones, right? 70s, it's like 70s, 80s, and and if you dig deep enough, you can probably see that that's his way of kind of escapism. Like everyone who goes through depression has a form of escapism, right? So, because what you're going to do, you're going to keep crying in public and crying in private life. Like when you're going through depression, you cry a lot anyway, quite emotional. But when you're outside, you've got sometimes no choice but to put that facade on or that smile on,
mm,
right? And the people who do know you might knock on that door a little bit harder, saying, "Are you sure you're okay? Because you're not your usual self."
wow.
Right? Because some people can be full, but some people who really, really know you will just kind of pick up on that vibe, right? That you're
Yeah,
a little bit off. But then it's tough for them because you might not want them to even know,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because you just might need some space. But then obviously there's a danger to try and do anything, solve it yourself, because depression can lead to obviously spiral out of control, right? And tablets not working, and then affecting your friends and family and colleagues. And I've had people who reached out to me because they've been sacked from their jobs because they've had depression and mental health. So it's sad, and it's like, and they think it's, oh, you're just not performing at work, but it's tough. You just don't know what people are going through.
mm, yeah,
It's just really tough. It's really it's it doesn't mean that you ask every single person in your family, and are you okay. I mean, I think you should do that anyway, and you should be authentic and present and trying to sort of care for
mm,
people around you. But I think we can be more aware of our surroundings and the people in our, I guess, in our reach, if you like. A reach meaning that people who we generally converse with, whether it's virtual, whether it's face to face, and just be more serving, and just be a bit more caring, and ask those questions, but with the right intentions. I think the intention behind the question has more meaning than the question itself, because you can ask the right question. I can say, "How you doing, Saga?" But if I don't really care, what value does it add, right?
yeah, yeah. No, I think, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I said so much came out, just through the share that what you just mentioned at the beginning of this live. And I think just that one share, we may not see it, but I think there will be so many people that will connect to it. You know, I just want to say thank you guys for joining. I just want to say thank you to Nunji, Bhavna, Domesh, Matt, Joannis. Really bad that I missed that one. Vinod, let us know your thoughts of, you know, in terms of if you've ever been through a journey like this, or if you know of anyone, and how you find them going through it. Because like Manoj was said, well, Manoj definitely knows my view on this. Is I share everything and anything without any hesitation, because the more that I have done that, the more people are reaching out. And it's not about people reaching out to myself, but it's also someone, as Manoj said earlier, it's just people just want to talk. They don't want to be fixed. They just want someone to talk to that's not going to judge them or give them advice on what they need to do, which is why we created this whole Mindful Men's Club platform, right? Because we wanted to do something where people can have that platform to share confidentially, and not actually being judged at what they're saying. And look how many people share so much on our Zoom sessions, which is so lovely.
What advice would you give, Sagar, for somebody who's gone? I mean, you know, I think everyone's different, right? I handled it very differently. I'm sure you handled it very differently. But what advice would you give for somebody who is going through depression?
Don't be too hard on yourself, and don't give it a time limit. I think one thing that I did was I gave myself a time limit of, okay, I can't be like this. I need to be all back to normal in a month, let's say. And yeah, cool. You know, must have maybe got out of it in a month. But did I really? Because I didn't focus on what I had to do, and I focused too much on the time. I keep reverting back to when I had my quiet period. I kept reverting back to depression.
Mm.
And that could be, like I just wrote here, that could be just watching soppy TV shows, right? But then I watched soppy TV shows, it took me back to where I was depressed, and I'm depressed again now. That I
Mm.
didn't have anything. And so I'm not saying don't cover it up. I'm saying if you can share with a close person or even a random person, because it does help. That when I started to share, and I actually, when I mean share, it wasn't verbally, it was also emotionally, in terms of crying in front of people who I have no idea who they were. Well, I do know they were my work colleagues, but if it wasn't for those two work colleagues, I would have never got out of it. Because, but why would you, like, we would stop ourselves, right? Crying to a work colleague,
Mm.
because they may talk, they may say something, but I had so much trust in them that they know everything about me. And even now, to this point, they still reach out and saying, how's things? It doesn't mean that they're reaching out saying, are you still depressed? It's just, yeah, how's things? Because they know I've cried in front of them. So don't hold your emotions back. If you feel comfortable letting it out in front of someone, do it. And don't, there is no such thing as a time limit on any kind of mental health condition, right?
Mm.
We've been taught that. You know, especially when in the Asian culture, you know, older generation may not understand it because they've always figured out ways to get through an obstacle, whereas our generation and the younger generation now, but because we've been taught that, we can't sometimes refer our problems to the older generation, because they'll be like, well, just get over it. And it's not get over it, they don't mean it in just brushing you off and shutting you off. They're saying it like, we've got over some things. I was talking about this with someone else just literally 2 days ago. Is any obstacles that came through the journey of our parents, grandparents, and so on, they always found ways. I'm not saying they weren't upset, angry, depressed. I'm not saying they weren't depressed, but they always found ways to overcome that obstacle. Whereas what we do when we come and when we face that obstacle, we tend to just get stuck. And because we shut ourselves down, we don't know how to get through that obstacle. I was talking about this because it was wedding related.
Mm.
When you know a wedding ceremony, how many people know why you do certain parts, and
I
that's
think,
one reason.
yeah,
Right?
I think there's something to be said about the perseverance, about the you know, our parents and our parents' parents and grandparents and what they went through. Some of us probably have no idea, right? About and it doesn't mean that they didn't have challenges with mental health. It means most likely they did, but they just didn't package it in that conversation or label it in that way. And obviously it was something that wasn't really openly talked about at that point, right? So I think
It's
it's
different.
it's different. It's not lesser or more. It's different with different times and different
Correct.
circumstances, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they just processed it in a different way, right? So I
mm,
was thinking, actually, now that you asked me that question, I was like thinking, it'll be nice to do a quick fire round, right? As we
okay.
finish off. So I'm going to ask you the same question, which is, what advice would you give someone if they felt like they're going through a certain period of depression or whatever mental health? Quick fire round meaning just in one sentence.
Okay. Share your story with someone, whether it's a random stranger or someone you love, but absolutely share your story because it would absolutely be a weight off your shoulders. I can promise you that.
When you were going through the same thing, name three things that you did that helped you come out to a better, well, to where you are now.
Group meditation, spent a lot of time at the Watford Temple, and journal. I love writing, so I love expressing myself through words. And the reason why writing is really powerful is because when you're depressed, your mind is very full. And if you want to get through depression, sometimes you need space. And to get space and create space, you need to empty your mind. So what happens is when you write, every thought that you internalize, whether you realize or not, it's a powerful thing. You're transferring that thought from energy, from feeling bad or good, chaos, whatever it's going through, thunderstorms in your head. And then because you're writing it down, it's a release mechanism. And you're allowing new thoughts to then get processed. So I mean, yeah, those are the three.
Okay, perfect. Going to a counselor or hiring a life coach?
Neither and all above, because it depends on what you think is right for you, is the honest answer. Because the title of who they are has no relevance in my opinion. It's the intention and it's a bit like if you vibe with someone, you're going to gravitate to that individual. So gravitate towards who you think is going to help you, not by who they are or what title they have is my.
Okay. No, thank you.
I wasn't ready for this, but yeah, there you go. That
No,
was
no,
me.
no, no. That's why it's fun. I was gonna add some other bits, and I was like, no, next time we'll plan it properly. That,
I think it's best if you don't plan it, to be fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice because it's just coming out just like that, right? But yeah, no, I think yeah, we had a couple of people join today, so thank you. I know a lot of people will watch this, hopefully on the replay, and as always, we will be posting this up on replay on our story as well on Facebook, as well as on our Insta, LinkedIn, and more importantly on YouTube, so people can access it from wherever possible. Manoj, anything else like
Yeah,
you
just
think from?
I think look, the whole purpose of this conversation, the catalyst was born from somebody who had courage to reach out, who shared what they shared. That then created the backdrop and conversations internally with Mindful Men's Club that said, why don't we do a topic on depression, which is what we did on Saturday. So if you missed the beginning bit, which is the most important bit, just put hashtag replay and watch it, because what I read out by this individual, what they shared with me is quite deep. It takes a lot of courage, but if it helps you in some small way, then that's a blessing, right? And if it makes you invoke a conversation with somebody in your friends or family or work colleagues that you never would approach, that's a blessing. The whole point of this is to create awareness about depression, that everyone goes through depression. We may label it a whatever word we want to call it, but everyone ultimately goes through lows and highs. So if you know someone is going through a low, then you're slightly more aware of it now than you were yesterday, if that makes sense, even if it's 0.001%. So I think, depression is a lonely journey, but it doesn't have to be lonely. So I think encourage anybody who's going through it, reach out to whoever you gravitate towards. And if you don't gravitate towards anyone, trust me, as random as it sounds, speak to a stranger. Obviously, you're not going to blurt out everything to a stranger, but strike up a conversation with a stranger, because sometimes the deepest intimate thoughts are often shared with people we actually don't know in that moment, but then end up becoming soulmates or good friends, etc., or partners in some cases.
Yeah, no, thank you. So yeah, just please do share this post, as you may not think it's helping anyone because you may be looking at a like or a comment. However, just we know that the comments, the shares are actually helping so many others, which is another reason we've done this on a weekday. We normally do it on a Saturday after our session, but we still wanted to do this because so many people have reached out to Manoj and to us individuals who have, because we didn't do anything on Saturday, they were looking for one. And so we thought we'd still be consistent.
I'm not sure if there's any questions because I can't see the.
No, there isn't. There are no
Okay, that's
questions.
right.
But we had a lot of people come
It's a
in and
deep,
out, which is nice.
it's a deep subject to talk about.
It is, especially on Facebook.
Yeah, but if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to us on the group or individually. We always value confidence, and even in, I mean, the men who show up every 2 weeks know that we're super trust is a big thing, and in fact, it's often referred to as a family, right? A family atmosphere. So we do laugh, we do joke, we do share experiences. And I think life is about, everyone has a lived experience, right? The term is lived experience, meaning something you lived through, you've gone through, or are going through. And if you've gone through either of those, then you have some value to add to others around you. And I think sharing is the best thing. I think you mentioned it earlier as well. So yeah, I think on the final note, I would say it's a lonely journey, depression, but it doesn't have to be. And I think if you can find someone, and I pray that you can find someone to share your journey with, even if it's a small snippet, start on that first step, because that will then unravel other solutions that you never knew existed. And they may be conventional or unconventional solutions, and you just don't know, right? I think quite often we fall under the conveyor belt of depression, mental health. Go see a doctor, go see a psychiatrist, go get these tablets. I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm saying there's other ways to deal with it as well along that journey. But unless you start sharing it with people around you or people you trust, then it can be even more lonely. But it doesn't have to be, I guess, is what we're trying to say.
Okay, thank you guys. Make sure you follow our sister group as well, which is Mental Wealth and
Reroute.
Reroute. Yes.
Yeah, definitely massive shout out to our sister group, a massive shout out to all the men and women out there listening, watching it on live or replay. Again, if you're new to this, the reason Mindful Men's Club started is literally to ensure that another man does not become a statistic to suicide. It's that simple. And it's the same mission for the women. So they're creating Reroute is for 18 to 35s. So if you're female out there, go check out Reroute on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're 35 plus, go check out Mental Wealth, because yeah, again, same principles, and we collaborate quite a lot. So there's a lot of support systems out there, so you don't have to be alone in what you're going through. And mental health, like we always say, it's none different from if you're physically going to the gym, right? You got to exercise your body, you got to exercise your mind. So let's not kind of label it as good or bad. It just is something that everyone will go through in their life, whether they admit it or not, in different forms and extremities. And I think it's just something that it's almost like it's a crime that we don't talk about it enough, right?
Mm.
You know, and you don't need a famous celebrity to commit suicide for us to all jump on Facebook and to raise awareness, or it could be someone quite closer to home than you think. I've certainly had people who have lost their lives to suicide in the family, and one friend, and it's tough. It's tough when it's closer to home. But mental health is that conveyor belt of that journey that can lead to that if it doesn't go treated. So I think find that person or persons, and hopefully you can count more than 5 on your hand. But even if you've got one, I think reach out to them, reach out to someone, because it doesn't have to be a journey that you're fighting alone.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much for everyone that's joined today and taken out time this evening to join. And thank you for people that are going to watch it on replay. And definitely thank you to people that will be sharing this video, whether it's through YouTube or whether it's on Facebook, because as I mentioned earlier, one share will help so many guys. So thank you so much. And Manoj, as always, mate, thank you.
Thanks, bro. Thank you to everyone.
And we'll catch up soon. Take care.
Bye.
See you later.